What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all, so you'll be the first to know as soon as new content drops on the channel. So let's get into it. Last night we had a hometown card, North London, where I'm from. There was a card there in Alexandra Palace, headlined by Danny Jacobs versus John Ryder. Controversial decision, which we'll come to talking about in a few moments. So how did this fight go? Overall, this was a fight where there's two words come to mind: momentum shift. And that's for me, that's exactly what happened in this fight, because for the first, I want to say at the very least, the first half of the fight, it was pretty much all Danny Jacobs. From the word go, Danny Jacobs was able to land a very good jab, and he'd sometimes lighten up the jab, sometimes just put the jab out there as sort of a measuring stick to measure the distance. Danny Jacobs really found his feet early. He established himself, he established a rhythm in the fight early. The jab, the distance, the timing. Danny Jacobs basically had an excellent start to this fight. You couldn't really ask for a better start. John Ryder, for his part, was always sort of playing catch up. Ryder seemed to be waiting quite a lot in this fight. He just seemed to be a few steps behind Danny Jacobs. You know, he'd be there, he'd be more or less in punching range with Danny Jacobs, but just unable to get anything going, unable to mount any meaningful offense. Certainly in that first half of the fight, it was just predominantly Danny Jacobs just outboxing John Ryder. Good jab, and he was able to land with such ease in the early part of this fight. He had no trouble landing his shots. He kept it to sort of ones, twos, and threes. Not massive combinations, but very good straight punches from him, just straight down the pipe with the right hand and with the jab. And yeah, he boxed very, very well all the way throughout. First round good, second, third, fourth. It was all sort of going Danny Jacobs' way. There was a bit of a breakthrough, I would say, for John Ryder when it came to round 6. He had a bit of a breakthrough. He was finally able to sort of get some shots off. And it was one where, in my view at least, he was at a big deficit. He was way behind when it came towards that 6th round and that halfway stage. And so he had catching up to do, and he made a bit of an effort there. He landed a few shots in the 6th, I think it was. But then his problem was that you then had Jacobs came back. And, John Ryder did have his success in that round, the 6th. But then his problem was that success was responded to by Danny Jacobs, who, after getting hit, having to take a few, he come back with his own shots, and he put his stamp on the 6th round. So although we had the breakthrough of John Ryder, which was a bit of a shift, a bit of a turn in the action, Danny Jacobs responded to him. He came straight back and fought fire with fire. So that made the round a lot closer, and that made you look at what Danny Jacobs done perhaps more, because he responded, he took it and then gave back. So as we then move into the second part of the fight, second half, 7th round, again it's more sort of close action. I think for me, from what I recall watching it, Danny Jacobs sort of winning the boxing match there, and that was until the 8th round, where that was a round where I would say that was a proper turning point, because the 8th round now, you could literally see Danny Jacobs was wobbled, he was hurt. He didn't go down, to his credit, so Jacobs did show some real toughness, and he showed his mental toughness and physical toughness. That he did take a lot of shots in that 8th round, but again refused to give in, refused to go down. and he done a mixture of trying to hold on to Jacobs, but he was also trying to land his own shots at the same time. So Jacobs, he had a bad round in that eighth, and but he sort of tried to come back. He was still there, still in the fight, and for my money, he was still in the lead. We then moved into 9, and it started to become more of a John Ryder fight. John Ryder was sort of coming into it. He was stepping on the gas. He was managing to finally sort of catch Danny Jacobs with some meaningful shots. So it was sort of becoming more Ryder's fight as we got into those latter rounds, which was good for Ryder. So he started to turn it round. But again, for me, I think he would have needed, at least for me personally, he would have needed something like a knockdown or a 10-8 round to sort of claw it back, because I felt that, the first 7 rounds or so, first 7 rounds I'd say, it was more or less all Danny Jacobs. So he began turning it round, and he had excellence of 8th and 9th and stuff. He came right back, went at Danny Jacobs. So yeah, a lot of credit to John Ryder. He really started to pull the fight back in his favour, and he did win a good few rounds of those sort of championship rounds, second half. And as we got to sort of the 10th, you did feel like, wow, Jacobs was visibly quite tired as we got to the championship round. You saw him beginning to tire, and the exhaustion, the fatigue was really kicking in. So Ryder was a bit fresher. He was able to land on Jacobs and take a good few of those, I would say, championship rounds. But I'd say going into sort of 11, 12, I thought that Ryder, he needed to do more than just win the round. I felt he needed a knockdown or something, because for me, you've got to, watching that fight, you've got to give Jacobs at least 7 or 8 rounds to Ryder's 4, because he for the first half, Ryder was playing catch up and losing so many of those first rounds that he needed a knockdown for me to have a chance to win this fight. It didn't end up coming, but he did do very well in the championship, sort of 10th, 11th and 12th. Then we came to the decision, and it was a split decision. I think one judge had it 115, 113 for Jacobs, and then the other 2 had it more or less, I think it was very similar, if not the same scorecard, but in John Ryder's favour. Now, there's a lot of people that are agreeing with the decision on the DAZN team. They were saying, I think Conor Benn was really happy. I think he's got the same trainer as John Ryder, so he was happy. And he said, Tony pushes us. And he said that there's so many controversial decisions that go against John Ryder, so he deserves one controversial decision to go in his favour. Which I see what Ben is saying, but also at the same time, I think you've got to be objective, and regardless of what's happened in the past, what we should want as fans is the right man to just win the fight. So if it was Jacobs, it's Jacobs. If it's Ryder, it's Ryder. You had Gabe Rosado there on the broadcast as well. He was saying, he felt Jacobs got robbed, but then he kind of giggled and said, well, now Danny knows how I feel, or how I felt when he fought me, and I should have got the decision. So yeah, that was interesting. But for me, I think it was, I don't know if I'd use the term robbery, but I would say it was a bad decision, because for me, Jacobs just won too many rounds to not get that decision. You gotta, and for me, on my cut, I struggle to give Ryder anything in sort of the first 7 rounds. I can't give him more than one of them. And then obviously Jacobs won another couple of rounds in the when it got towards the end of the fight. So I can't see any way that you can give this fight to John Ryder unless there was a knockdown, which I felt he needed. But anyway, that was the decision. Unanimously went to John Ryder. I think it was a bit of an injustice, but at the same time, as I see, knowing a bit of John Ryder's story, he's a guy who's been a bit unlucky in his career. He's been beaten by some guys who shouldn't have been able to beat him, you could argue. So I'm happy for him that he won the fight, but at the same time, I'm disappointed that the right man didn't get the decision, which was Danny Jacobs. I mean, because as long as, as much as we can say, yes, Ryder came on strong, he was great towards the end of the fight, he wobbled, he hurt, he done damage to Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs was fatigued. At the end of the day, if you're objective, you still got to say, well, Danny Jacobs still won more rounds. At the end of the day, Danny Jacobs won more rounds, so therefore he deserves the fight. But anyway, credit to John Ryder. These things happen in boxing, and let me know your thoughts. Did you think it was a robbery? Did you think John Ryder deserved this decision? Or maybe not. Maybe you're like me and you don't think he deserved the decision. So let me know your thoughts. And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism over and out.